Hello, everyone, and welcome to the spring semester of the Definiti Retirement Academy, class of 2023. The Definiti Retirement Academy is an educational webinar series designed to make plan sponsors a bit more confident in managing their plans, whether you're a new or seasoned plan sponsor, as well as assist financial advisors in growing their book of business. My name is Justin Patterson, and I am the marketing coordinator here at Definiti, and I'm glad you're all in attendance today. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to be with us. You are currently in the plan sponsor track. In another session, the advisor track is currently happening as well. In the plan sponsor track, we will cover topics related to the daily management of your plans. I would like to take a moment to thank our platform sponsors. Let me go back. I'd like to give a special thanks to John Hancock, American Funds Capital Group, The Standard, Principal, Fidelity, Voya Financial, Transamerica, Empower, Lincoln Financial Group, and T. Rowe Price. We appreciate you for helping us put this together. Now, before we get started, I want to share just a few reminders for you while we go through these 2 days of sessions. You can jump in and out of these sessions as your time allows, so feel free if you need to take a break or if something comes up, leave and come back at your own free will. If you have any questions during the sessions, you can submit your questions using the Q&A and or the chat feature, and they will be answered at the end of the session. These sessions will be recorded, so watch for a follow-up email with a link to access these recordings around early next week. So like I said, if you need to take some time to step away or if you have prior engagements, that's okay because these will be recorded. Any resources accompanied with today's sessions will also be shared at the end of the session. Okay, now let's go ahead and get started. Our first speaker is Stephanie Mead, Senior Retirement Plan Consultant for Definiti, and she will be discussing participant eligibility and entry dates. Stephanie, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Mead, and I have been with Definiti for about 6 months now, but I have been in the retirement plan industry for 26 years. So if any of you are trying to do the math, that means that I started working when I was 10 years old. So yes, I'm not old. But today I wanted to talk to you about how eligibility will work under your 401k plan, as that is your responsibility to determine who needs to get the enrollment information and when. I wanted to help you break down the steps on determining eligibility. So let's get started. So when you're determining who is eligible, there are a couple of factors that you really need to take into consideration with a retirement plan. And not offering those opportunities to the right participants can cause significant penalties. And, our job is to help you to not have any penalties. So today I'm going to walk us through on who's a participant and how we determine that. So the first question is, do we have an employee or participant? A participant is labeled as an active employee who satisfies the age and or eligibility conditions and enters the plan on their entry date. This is regardless of whether they're putting money into the plan. So it doesn't matter that they're actually participating in the plan. They are a participant simply because they have met all of the eligibility reasons. So it's important to know that when we talk about a participant, we are not just talking about your people who are participating in the plan. Anyone who is eligible is considered a participant. Another thing that you need to watch for is unexpected employees. And this comes into play when you have owners who may have ownership in other companies, or possibly their spouse, child, parent may have ownership in other companies. When that happens, we could have what's called a control group or an affiliated service group. Basically, what that means is if we have a control group or an affiliated service group, then our job is to make sure that the people in that other company, even though they aren't the company that's sponsoring the plan, has an opportunity to enter. Again, this is because of stock attribution rules that the IRS has given us. So it's important to talk to your advisor or your retirement plan consultant if you own other companies or your family members also own other companies. Because again, failing to put people into the plan can become costly. So the other thing that you need to be aware of is maybe people that your plan document just excludes for certain reasons. You need to be able to look into your document and determine if there are any of these preset exclusions. The most common of these exclusions are going to be for your collective bargaining employees or your union employees. Then we also have your non-resident aliens, and these are folks who are not U.S. citizens, but are taxed on U.S. income. Now, when you're thinking about non-resident aliens, one of the things that you have to consider is the facts and circumstances test that the IRS gives us. Under this test, it's called the substantial presence test, and a non-resident alien would have to have resided in the U.S. for less than 183 days in the last 3 years. So if you're trying to exclude people that are not residents of the United States, that is not available to you if that person has worked more than 6.5 months in the U.S. in the last 3 years. So it's important to remember to look at the facts and circumstances. Another type of employee that is often excluded and often overlooked are our leased employees. It's important to note that even if you're leasing employees from a staffing agency, because of this rule, we may have to include them in certain testing. The way that the IRS determines this facts and circumstances test is, again, the substantial presence test, which says that your leased employee must have worked primarily for you in the last year, and primarily for you means at least 1,500 hours in your company. So again, even though you have a leased employee, you're not paying them compensation. If they work substantially for you, then we may have to include them in the testing. This does not mean that you will offer enrollment to them. They do not have a paycheck for you to withdraw funds from, but we would have to consider them in testing, and under certain tests, if you fail those, you may have to put money in just on their behalf. So just beware and watch out for leased employees. It is important to note that your document can exclude pretty much anyone that it wants. There are other divisions. You can exclude seasonal employees, your administrative employees, or even your highly compensated employees. The thing to remember is that the IRS says that we have to cover, and 70% of your employees or your participants will have to benefit under the plan. So you're not going to be able to exclude a large work population. If you're talking about a couple people and a decent sized company, we can probably do that. But in most cases, when you talk about excluding employees, you do open up a lot of other testing options. So it's important to just talk with your RPA and or your RPC, and we will get that looked at and make sure that we can do that for you. You'll notice that one of the things that I did not mention was part-time employees. The IRS has got a couple of particular rules on our part-time people. And in the past, it has said that the exclusion of part-time employees, where the term part-time is defined only on the basis of their work schedule. So if you say that if they only work 20 hours a week, then they're part-time. But that is an impermissible service condition. Because that exclusion is based solely on the employee's service. So you can exclude part-timers just because they're part-time, and they may not be eligible for your other plans, your health plan, FSA, those types of plans. They may not be eligible for those. However, if they work enough hours to satisfy the eligibility for your retirement plan, you will want to make sure that they're added. Even if a part-time or if a participant goes from part-time to full-time, full-time to part-time, it doesn't matter. They are still eligible to participate if they have met the rules. Speaking of part-time people, and at the end of 2019, the Secure Act passed Congress, and in it, it specifically dealt with our part-time employees. Under this new legislation, a 401k plan is now required to offer their long-term part-time employees the opportunity to participate in the company 401k plan. So we'll call these LTPTs. And so if your LTPT has worked between 500 and 1,000 hours in 3 consecutive years, then they should be offered the opportunity to participate in the retirement plan. This rule applies to all plans effective on or after January 21st. So this rule goes into effect for us next year. So if you have some part-time employees that have been with you for a while, you probably want to talk to your RPC about what you need to do to add them to your plan. At the end of 2022, the Congress passed Secure Act 2.0. The one thing that changed under this for LPTPs is that it shortens the 3-year consecutive period to just 2 years. And this rule now is going to apply for 401k and 401 or 403b plans. So you will have another plan that is subject to these rules. And it's again 2 consecutive years instead of 3. And that starts in January 1, 2025. So you got a little bit of time on that, but your LPTPs will probably be eligible or could possibly be eligible at January 1, 2024. So you want to be sure to offer or to talk to your RPC if you have some people that fall under that. So let's just talk about how you're going to determine how someone is eligible, because it's maybe your job to determine who enters the plan, when, and make sure they get all the required paperwork. So to do that, you need to understand your eligibility rules. I like to refer to this as the starting gate method. I had a colleague kind of mention this to me one year, and I really liked how he brought it out. So I have moved on to helping people with this. And the starting gate method, to qualify for your retirement race, you need to make sure that 1, your employee is old enough, 2, that they have worked long enough, and 3, that they take off and start on the day that they're supposed to. You don't want people jumping ahead, and you don't want people lagging behind. So just as in a race, it's important to make sure the right people are lined up at the starting gate. So let's talk about the first requirement, which is age requirements. Is your employee old enough? Some plans will require a participant or an employee to reach a certain age. The most common age requirement is age 21. You can decide not to have an age requirement, that's fine, but the IRS has said that you cannot make a participant wait longer than age 21. So a lot of plans you will see at age 21 age requirement, but a lot of them are also 0. It kind of depends on, your workforce and what's going to work best for you. So you've got to make sure that they're old enough. The second part, have they worked long enough? So your retirement plan is going to specify how much time they need to work for your company to become eligible to enter into the plan. So you'll need to look at your document to determine if you have a service requirement. Our most common service requirements are 3 to 6 months service or a year service. You'll notice little asterisks on the slide. There's always something that we need to add on this. So when you have a 3 or 6 months of service, you need to understand that this is a passage of time test only. It's not based on the hours worked. It is simply 3 or 6 months have passed, or whatever your document states. Under the 1 year service, that does not mean 12 consecutive months. It just means within the 12-month period, which generally starts on their date of hire to their anniversary date. We're going to look in this time frame to determine if they have worked over 1,000 hours. Again, it doesn't matter if they were there for the whole 12 years or not, or 12 months or not. This is simply the time period that we're going to look at to determine if they're there. All right, so the next thing, the last thing, is trying to determine when they get to go, when we're going to blow the whistle and send them off on their race. Your document should specify a date as to when we want to allow those people to enter. The most common are you going to first day of the month, first day of the quarter, or semi-annually, which for your, calendar year plans, that's going to be January, July. An entry date is always the first available date on or after reaching both of the service requirements. So just remember that it's the first entry date that's going to occur after meeting those two requirements. And one of the best ways that I know to teach you how to do this is to show you a couple of examples. So we have our participant, Holly. Holly works for ABC Company, and their age requirements is 21. Their service requirement is 1 year service, which again is 1,000 hours within 12 months, and the entry dates are semi-annual. So here's Holly. Holly is age 24. She was hired on September 7th, 2021, and she was hired full-time employment. So does she meet the age requirement? Well, yes, because she's 24 and she only needs to be 21. So, all right, we've got her closer to the starting line. All right, the next thing is determine if she has met the service requirements. She was hired full-time on September 7th, 2021. Full-time would be 40 hours a week. So we're going to assume that within her anniversary year, remember start date to anniversary date, she had 2,080 hours, which is well over our 1,000-hour requirement. So yes, she has met the service requirement. So the last item is, when are we going to put Holly on the line and shoot the gun off so that she can run to her financial security? Again, this is the first entry date after satisfying all of the other requirements. We know that she's met age 24. We know that on September 6th, 2022, which is 1 year after her hire date, she has worked more than 1,000 hours in that 12-month period. So as of September 6, 2022, she has met both of the service requirements. So the next thing is just when will she be allowed to participate? The first entry date after she has met those. So for Holly, that would be January 1st of 2023, because she met it September 6th, and the following entry date for her was January 1. All right, now I'm going to switch gears and talk to the folks who have the monthly eligibilities. We got James now, and this company does not require you to be a certain age, so the age requirement is none. Service requirement on this is 6 months of service, and the entry dates we're keeping at January 1 and July 1, just because they're easy. All right, so this is what we know about James. James is age 20. He was hired April 3rd, 2021, and he is a part-time employee who only works 2 hours a day. So let's walk through our retirement plan and see if he meets our eligibility. Of course, he meets the age requirement because there is none. So no matter what age he was, as long as you're allowed to legally employ them, they are allowed to enter the plan. So the second service requirement is, of course, 6 months of service. So 6 months from April 3rd would be October 3rd of 2022. So based on that, and of course, April 3rd to October, he's met his 6 months. So when does he get to enter? October 22nd is how long he has to wait for his 6 months. And then he gets to come in on January 1, 2022. All right. So again, we just waited. He met his age, he met his service, and then we let him in on the first available entry date following his completion of those. I do need to talk to you people who have the monthly requirements in your documents. It's important to note that if your document only lists a service condition that's a monthly type thing, that is only a passage of time. Again, the actual number of hours they work does not matter. When you hire them, you will essentially start a stopwatch, and 6 months from that date, they will have met their eligibility requirement. Doesn't matter how many hours they worked. So let's talk about Kimberly. Kimberly started working on January 5th, and the plan only has a 3-month eligibility. Her service requirement was met on April 5th. It doesn't matter if she worked 2 hours or 2,000 hours. 6 months from January 5th is when she meets that eligibility requirement. So I know that some people kind of get scared about that. You just need to know that there is an alternate employer eligibility that we can add to your plan. But if you're concerned about that, definitely contact your RPC. What I want you to know, though, is don't panic. We can fix pretty much anything you do. A lot of times it's just how much it's going to cost you. I also want to caution you on your rehired employees. Rehired employees are extremely tricky. And as a matter of fact, I've heard that the IRS puts their auditors through an entire day-long seminar just on how to deal with rehired employees. So hopefully we'll get to talk about that in a later session. That's all I've got for you today. If there is any questions or you guys have any concerns, you can contact me or any of your staff, and we'll be happy to help you out.
Thank you, Stephanie, for being here with us today and covering eligibility for us in this first session. We really appreciate it. And like Stephanie said, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to submit them via chat or reach out to your RPC. Thank you.